All right, welcome back to episode 6 of Pledgy Podcast, after Hours the Pledgy Podcast. Fortunately, John cannot be on the episode today, but we have Marigale Walsh here. She is the founder and CEO of Volterra Health and Alarion Solutions. She's been a global business leader her whole life. Really excited to dive deep into this episode. Marigale, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hey everybody. Nice to be here today. Marigale Walsh. So I have two companies. Right now I have one, Alarion Solutions, which is a marketing consulting company that focuses on growth marketing and delivering profitable revenue and bottom line results. And then I also have Volterra Health, which is my functional medicine company. I'm a board certified functional medicine health coach, where I use lifestyle and behavior modification to reverse chronic disease. And we just opened up a clinic here in Northbrook in Illinois, right outside of Chicago. And I have an entire collaborative care team that we take care of servicing the client all the way from mindset, all the way down through nutrition and sleep. And we'll get into that. But great to be here today. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to meet with me this
Sure.
afternoon. Really looking forward to it. So just kind of little point of view for our viewers. Marigale has been working in marketing for quite a long time now. Do you want to kind of give us, a little bit of a dive into your career when you were kind of traveling across Europe? You were a global leader for a lot of businesses you worked with, really before you entered the health and wellness space with Volterra?
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to put like a whole life into a couple sentences, right? But it's
Yeah.
interesting when you get to a certain age, you're like, what's my story? So for me, real quickly, it started really, quite frankly, when I was 8, my goal was to get to Europe. Because I was at a picnic with my grandmother who was from Austria, and she had a bakery here in Chicago. And
Okay.
every year she had a huge picnic down in Grand Park for all the bakers of Europe. And that was the one day she was not in competition with the Swedes or with the Polish or with the Germans. Every day, everybody that day was, we're all in the same boat. So anyways, I learned to play bingo with her, where you've got like 9 cards without whatever. And I won bingo with her when I was 8, and I got to go over the treasure chest as a kid. And I don't know if you guys ever done like the dentist or whatever, but you're like, oh, what can I pick out as a toy? Well, I picked out this doll that had this pretty cool dress on. And as it turns out, this doll was from the countryside of Spain. And
Hmm.
my grandmother said, and I've always loved clothing and everything to do with color. And my grandmother said, well, one day you need to go to Spain, figure out a way to have a career that could get you there. Now, why she's talking about a career at 8 years old, I have no idea what that word even meant. But she knew that I should get back overseas, maybe because she came over from Austria. But anyways, the very next day we went to the library. This is all before Google. And we looked up what Spain is so that she could educate me on that. And long story short is I eventually got I got my degree in international banking and finance, and fashion, because my goal was to get to Europe, and I was going to go there. I like math, so I was going to
Yeah.
go there with math or with fashion. And at that point, I ended up going over there with fashion. So the early part of my career, I had an apartment in Milan for 12 years, because
That's awesome.
I was a couture fashion buyer. So I bought all high fashion clothing. So I was the one in the front row at all of the fashion shows and the runways and the models and all that kind of thing. And I got to know all the high-end designers like Valentino and Armani and Christian Lacroix and all these people back in the day. So that was my first entry over to Europe, where I was traveling, 9, 10 months out of the year for all the fashion shows in Europe and New York. And I got that out of my system. And then
That's
eventually, once I had children, then I stayed stateside, and then I got into the marketing side. And long story short is I eventually went back over there with Staples. So I moved from fashion to office supplies. And I was living in Amsterdam for 4 years. So I moved to Amsterdam for 4 years. And I ran marketing and merchandising for Staples. That's what their headquarters were, for 20 countries in Europe. So that's how I got over to
wow.
Europe the
That's
second time, 20
that's
years later.
amazing. That's actually
Yeah.
that's fantastic. On the marketing side of it, how difficult was that to, you're working across 20 different countries, most likely a lot of different languages. The language barrier, there's different EU guidelines for each nation. How big effect did that play into the role? How difficult was that to kind of get used to going from the United States to Europe? Was that
Yeah.
a tough transition?
It really wasn't because I'd been over there for so many years before. So I knew that there were differences. But the interesting thing is that when you're an American company and you go and you live in another country, it's still English is number one. So in order for
Hmm.
anybody to work for the company, they had to speak business English. So in our meetings, we could speak English, but then they would go out and they would be the experts right within the countries. And so whatever we did centrally, we had to make sure we were all aligned with the countries, and then everything was executed locally. And that's where their expertise came in. Like, for example, you put a subject line in an email, you had to
Hmm.
make sure that in Germany, where there's just tons of letters in a word, that it would fit on the subject line, what you were sending, and the locals, the local expertise would help us with all of that. So it wasn't that difficult to execute. It just took a lot of collaboration and a lot of alignment, right, to make that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure there's some AI tools now where you can, switch between languages very quickly
Oh,
like that if you need to. Like where was that back in the day, right?
it was, well, back in the day, it was 2014 to 2018 I was there. So
Yeah,
it was already 12 years ago, which is nuts.
that's crazy to
And
think
even
about.
then, we weren't even talking AI, right? We were just, this is just coming out of, digital marketing and
Hmm.
SEO, right? Which was driving everything in marketing at the time. So we did have the ability to change languages pretty quickly when
Okay.
we were putting something out there. But just because you had a translator that comes from an automatic provider, it still doesn't always translate to the local language. That's why you always have to have the human intervention, no matter what's happening with it, with technology, to make sure that it's
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of I guess pivoting a little bit. You own two businesses now. What made you
Yeah.
take that leap to become, an entrepreneur, own your own
Well, yeah,
businesses, go from, corporate to running your own
yeah,
show? What made you
yeah.
kind of take that leap? I guess we could start with Hilarion and then get into Volterra a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. No. So people have been telling me for a long time I should just start my own company because they liked the way that I interacted with them. I'm always a huge team member player. And they said, why don't you just start your own company? So I started with it very small and then I started just getting referrals. And I just like now the flexibility of
Hmm.
being able to get into many different types of companies, but still have the flexibility for that work-life balance at this stage, which I didn't have before. When you're in corporate, right, you're on another schedule, their
Hmm.
schedule, and the ability to still do what you do and you love, but doing it on your own terms at this point, I really, really enjoy. So that's pretty much why I've been doing that now by myself. I do miss. I mean, I'll be really honest. I do miss having my team, a full team that's with
Hmm.
you every single day. But the beautiful thing is that you get to get involved in a lot of different industries with a lot of different team members. So if anything, I've expanded that. It just changes every minute of every day.
Yeah, that's great. I know I think we've talked about that before, like how nice it is to be able to, work across multiple industries and, okay, today I'm focusing on, CPG and maybe tomorrow you're focusing on a manufacturing company that you're working with. It's very versatile and, the skill sets that you add and grow upon. I got to ask. So with Volterra Health, it's a health and wellness company. Did any of your travel abroad in Europe kind of inspire, whether that be the name or give you inspiration behind actually creating the business? Would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of, thank you. It's kind of came out a little bit organically. While I was living in Europe, I'm a big foodie. Like I said earlier, I see the world in color, but I just love trying all different kinds of food. And because I'd been in Italy, I had an apartment in Milan for 12 years when I was a buyer. And
Hmm.
so I got used to the Italian, the Mediterranean way of cooking. And I'm not Italian or anything that has to do with that. I just fell in love with the Mediterranean style. And
Yeah.
while I was over in Amsterdam, my apartment, I had 76 stairs to my apartment, and
Hmm.
I rode my bike for 4 years. So to know that you have to lug anything that you bring up to your apartment or down, I started to see that logistics was just the way of getting really strong.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, there's got to be something to this. I had a farmer's market available to me 24/7. I mean, every weekend I would go to the local farmer's market and there were plenty to choose from. I would just ride my bike And whatever I saw at the farmer's market, that's what I ate that week, because I also gave myself a goal of not buying anything in a package while I was
Yeah.
there. I mean, sometimes I had to buy olive oil and whole food that maybe was processed that way. But I knew that if I bought something in a package, I'd have to bring it up all those stairs and then I'd have to bring it back down, because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to lug it all up and down all day, because the recycling and the garbage was actually 4 blocks down that you had to go and put that in the street. There's a way that they collect it in the street. So they weren't coming to my house to pick up the garbage. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay, I've got to figure out a clean way to do all of this so that I'm not wasting anything. So yeah, I tried not to use any plastic or anything in a package the whole time I was there. So I kind of fell into, what is all of this with the
Hmm.
Dutch? In Amsterdam, they're living longer than we are as Americans, but they still smoke a lot. Like, it didn't make
Hmm.
sense to me. So I started to actually look at all of that. And when I saw that logistics, riding my bike, I didn't have a car, and lugging everything up and down the stairs, I was actually getting, my cardio was improving. I was always an athlete, but my cardio was stronger. I felt like my arms were getting like more cut, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
is weird, like I never set out to do that. So then I started looking into this. I'm very analytical, and I started to look into why that was the case, and it really comes down to the tenets of functional medicine. And so while I was at school, or while I was in Europe, I went to school at night for a year to become an integrative nutritionist. That was
Oh,
my first
wow.
foray into functional medicine. So I went to school
Okay.
at night while I was living.
That's awesome. So integrated nutritionist, it's like, how is that, how kind of, your a balanced diet and exercise plays a role into, how you feel on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, great question. So it started with food, because I'm
Hmm.
thinking, okay, I have to make this choice, at least 2 to 3 times a day. So what does that look like? And I'm surrounded by all this healthy, accessible food, right? That's in
Yeah.
season. And I thought I could eat all these colors, it would changes all the time. And then I started looking into what all those polyphenols and antioxidants and all of this nutrition that I was getting. And I
Hmm.
was I was just feeling great. Again, I always ate really well, but this was like next level while I was there. And I
Yeah.
really saw the difference, with all of that and what that does to the whole mind body connection when you actually fuel your body with nutrients and real food, not just fake food, right? So
Yeah.
we can get into all of what real fake food is, but then when I came back is when I went to school then for functional medicine. I did that for a year, and then I most recently sat for the board certification for functional medicine, and that's where it includes everything what I call the pillars of health,
Hmm.
which actually includes nutrition, sleep,
Yeah.
movement, stress, mindset, growth, and joy, and
Yeah,
connection with the
that's
community.
that's fantastic. I guess as far as you're going to farmers markets every day when you're in Amsterdam, really clean food. It really doesn't compare to a lot of, like, going to the grocery store in the United States, does it? It just seems a lot more, because I've been to Europe once, it just seems a lot more natural
Oh
over there. The way
yeah,
everything is, you don't feel super bloated after you eat, whether, I don't know what it was, but when I went over there, I feel like I could eat double the amount that I could eat here without feeling getting dragged down. I felt like I get dragged down sometimes here when I eat too much, or and I always felt that whenever when I was in Europe, everything just seemed much cleaner. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
The laws are different, right? So what's allowed into their food systems is very different from what's allowed in the U.S. For
Hmm.
example, you've ever heard of food dyes like red number 6 or yellow number,
Yeah,
like whatever the colors are of the food? That's not allowed in Europe.
yeah.
Now, when we say Western Europe, it's a lot of little countries, right? But
Hmm.
so they can actually move quicker and be more nimble because they're not large like we are in the U.S., where it's we have the large government system here. They can actually do things by country. But the fact of the matter is, they don't have the land that we have, so they can't have these huge grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not how they were raised because most of them are just much more frugal where they've had to live off the land. So for them to go to a grocery store and walk up and down aisles, like, I mean, the biggest one for me is our cereal aisle. If you ever go to a cereal aisle, right, in a grocery store here, there are
Yeah.
just hundreds and hundreds of cereal. And when you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, most cereal is fake food, meaning that it's made in a lab
Yeah.
and it's all colorful and and we're marketing to children. You can't
It's
even
got
market to
red dye
children anymore.
40 all over it. It's not good, right?
You can't market, you can't even have it on on the television shows. You can't market it to them. That's not what they're used to eating.
Huh.
And so you already have a cleaner slate that you're actually eating whole real food. So here we've got all these fast food, places for convenience, and I'm not going to name them. It doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
because the fact of the matter is it's really just full of additives here in the US. It's full of toxins. Many people say it's laced with glyphosate, right? Which is,
Mm-hmm.
what's sprayed on the field. So whatever comes to them, because it's all about cheaper, faster, convenient food. But when you really look at it, it's not really whole food all the time.
Yeah.
And so our body, exactly what you're talking about, is not used to processing fake ingredients. That's not what the
Yeah.
body was built for. And in Europe,
Yeah.
they don't use those. They're not allowed to. So that's part of the big difference, yeah, when we're over there.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So you also mentioned earlier, mind body connection with functional health, and that's a lot what you do at Volterra. Speaking to the, I guess, entrepreneurs that are out there listening to this podcast, like, or maybe people who want to become entrepreneurs, like, how important is that, being that you own two businesses on a day-to-day basis to, feel good up here and, you know, how you're acting in your body on a day-to-day basis. That's huge, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that really starts with, again, those pillars of functional medicine. And let me share again what that is. So functional medicine looks
Mm-hmm.
at the root cause of health, not at the symptoms of disease. So like when you go
Yeah.
to your doctor and say, and you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, they treat you for that symptom. What
Mm-hmm.
functional medicine does, it asks the question, why do you have high blood pressure? Why do you have high cholesterol? And so when I approach my day, I say,
Yeah.
how am I going to show up with energy, that I'm awake, that I'm involved, that I'm engaged? And that really all starts with these pillars of health, which the number one is nutrition, but also quickly followed by sleep. If we're
Mm-hmm.
not getting the right fuel, just like your car, if you're not putting the right fuel in the tank, it's very hard for the body to show up, let alone for the mind.
Mm-hmm.
About 90 to 95% of serotonin. Have you ever heard of serotonin?
Yeah.
It's one of those chemicals, the feel good
Yeah.
one, right?
It makes you
Um,
happy, right?
it makes you happy, right? Well,
Yeah.
most people think that comes from your brain, but
Mm-hmm.
90 to 95% of serotonin actually originates in the gut.
Whoa.
And the gut and the brain are connected, right? So there's something called the vagus nerve. Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
heard of that?
I have not, no.
Um, okay, so the vagus nerve, picture it like the superhighway that
Yeah.
connects your brain and your gut.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in vitro, before we're born, that same cell divides.
Yeah.
One goes to the brain and one goes to the gut. And that vagus nerve is what connects the two. So, have you ever heard of somebody saying, "Oh my gosh, somebody's running after me. It's fight or flight,"
Yeah.
right? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? Do you need to run away from the danger, or do you need to, be afraid and just stand still and do nothing? Have you ever heard of that? Well,
Yeah.
that's your vagus nerve, your autonomic nervous system that's reacting.
Oh,
And
okay.
at that point, mostly when you're like nervous or anxious or you want to run away from something because the threat is too much,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, most people are not thinking about, I should probably go have something to eat, right? That's not the first thing
No.
that people are thinking about, that I'm hungry, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. I
what
want
your
to go
vagus
crush a
nerve
double
does
cheeseburger now. Yeah.
while you're being run down and chased, by a predator. Um, So the body is so in tune. If you talk about AI, I mean, the body has the best, on off switch of anything. And so it will, everything, all of the chemicals are going to your brain to be able to say, how can I get away from this danger?
Yeah.
Well, what most people don't realize is that, okay, maybe a lion's not chasing us any longer like back in the day, right? An actual lion. Most people don't have a lion chasing after them, but that threat of something that's going to trigger us to
Hmm.
be, feel like something isn't right, the fear of the unknown or fear of something in front of us, that's where a lot of people's anxiety comes in, right?
Yeah.
So when people say, and I know we're kind of going off a little bit here, but when people say, oh my God, do you have anxiety or do you have depression? The way to actually look at that is tied into what we're talking about. If you're afraid and you don't know what's happening, that's kind of fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's what anxiety is. It's a
Yeah.
fear of the unknown. The what if, I don't know what's
Fear
going
of
to
the
happen. I don't.
unknown. Yeah, kind of fear of the unknown, fear of what the future may hold, right? Like it's
Oh,
thinking forward, it's thinking future tense. I would
that's
say
right.
depression is thinking past tense, correct?
That's
On
right.
something
Yep.
that's happened. So whether it's like
Yep.
the outcome of a project or something that happened the past weekend, that's it's reflecting, right? Depression's
Exactly.
reflecting,
Exactly.
and anxiety is more, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow type of
What's going
thing.
to
It's
happen?
out of
The
your hand
fear.
completely.
Yeah. The fear of the unknown, right? So what
Hmm.
happens is people sometimes get panic attacks, right?
Yeah.
And where that panic attack often comes into play is in our chest, right? Where our breathing starts to accelerate, it gets shorter.
Yeah.
That's again, that's just think of that vagus nerve, that super highway is feeling restricted.
Hmm.
And it's no coincidence that it happens right where we also, our voice box lies underneath it.
Yeah.
So I can't communicate it. I don't really know what to say. Now I'm getting nervous and then I get clammy and all that kind of thing too. That's all connected to that super highway. And to bring it back into functional medicine, if
Hmm.
we don't have the right fuel in our gut full of nutrients, right? Nutrient dense whole
Hmm.
foods, now that fuel can't get to our brain.
Yeah.
And now, not only are we anxious about what's going to possibly happen, we don't even have the nutrient source to fuel our brain. So now we're just reacting as a defense mechanism to
Hmm.
something because our brain isn't getting the nutrients that it needs either. That's how important it is that we have real, whole, healthy food to give us the nutrients that supply everything within our body and our brain. They're not two different things,
That's
they're all connected.
that's amazing how much that actually ties in because, running your own business, you're definitely gonna get a little bit of anxiety at some point along the line. And I guess I just didn't realize how much that ties into, how you're treating your actual body on a daily basis. Like, because a lot of it's like response from like, what is this potential client gonna say about how I delivered on this project? Things like that. It's
That's
how do
right.
you overcome that? How do you get the mental fortitude to push through that? So I think that's
That's
just
right.
it's really cool to be able to connect that, okay, what you eat affects how you feel, and how you feel affects a lot of decisions you make on a day-to-day basis and
That's right.
entrepreneurship. Whether it's
That's right.
it's how do you respond to the future? How do you not think about the past? How do you be clear-headed and focus on the moment, the current project, the current task, the
Yep.
current client that you're working with? Um,
Yep.
I'm really curious about the pillars that you were talking about. Can we break
Yep.
those down? I know
Sure.
you said like
Sure.
obviously we just kind of dove into nutrition a little bit, but
Yep.
you mentioned sleep. What else is there?
Yeah. So sleep is one of the most underrated health hacks
Hmm.
that we just take for granted. Um, think about if, as an entrepreneur, if you wake up and you're sleep deprived,
Yeah.
right? Now your body is just playing catch up all the time because it's just like, oh God, here we go again. I didn't get the
Hmm.
rest that I needed last night, and now I'm expected to perform. So the body will, and I say this all the time, the body will continue to do what it needs to do because it only has one job. The
Yeah.
body only has one job. to keep us alive. That's it.
Yeah.
And the
Hmm.
body will keep us alive in a sick state or a healthy state. It
Hmm.
obviously would prefer a healthy state,
Yeah.
and it will continue with the advantage of youth, right? When we're younger, there's still a lot of, call it like bad guys that haven't built up in our system yet. But over
Hmm.
time, if we keep not sleeping and we keep running right with our burning the candle at both ends, which is what we're doing when we're starting our businesses, or we're like, oh, it's fine, I can do this, it's good, I only need 4 hours of sleep. The people that just love to like brag about that, right? Well, quite frankly, at 4 hours, for most people, there is a very small genetic component that says there are some people that only need 4 hours. So there is that piece, but it's very small.
Hmm.
For the rest of us, we need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because there's a whole nother set of symptoms and processes that go on while we're sleeping.
Hmm.
Picture it this way, right? When you're if you're a runner, you're a runner, Sam, right? So
Yeah, yeah, I am done one marathon, done a half Ironman. So yes, definitely have dabbled.
okay, so we need to dig into that definitely here in a second. But let me bring this back to the entrepreneurial part of it all. If in the
Hmm.
body, could you just keep running day after day after day after day 24/7? Is that possible?
It's not, no.
It's not, right?
Yeah.
But yet we think that our body should be able to do that.
Hmm.
That it's just always going, always going, always on, everything 24/7.
Yeah.
If we're not giving the time to rest and recover from our day, that
Hmm.
means that our organs and our brain never have a chance to reset for the next day.
Yeah.
And the body only goes into, I call it a car wash at night. It's the
Hmm.
best way to describe it, is that when we reach over 7 or 8 hours of sleep, the brain is able to detox and the cells are able to detox whatever the heck we did to it the day before.
Yeah.
It's
That's
called, they've only recently discovered this. It's called the glymphatic system
okay.
in our brain.
And
Again, it's basically,
that's what detoxes and kind of flushes out all the stress and
yes.
basically everything you dealt with the day prior, right?
Yeah,
That's why
processes
sleep is
everything,
so
right?
important. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it kind of like, okay, let me just get rid of that. Oh, good. Now we can sleep. And
Hmm.
now we wake up and let's start over again.
Yeah.
So if we're drinking a ton of alcohol, okay, which many of us do at certain times in our life out of college, if that's what some people want to do, we just think it's fine. It's no big deal. I'll just go to sleep, whatever.
Hmm.
Your body is having to not only detox all that alcohol at night, but now your liver, right, is working so hard to be able to detox all of that alcohol on top of it's just its regular day of what it was the day before. We
Yeah.
keep doing that time after time after time. We're not going to wake up every day and be able to be present,
Yeah.
because our body's still lagging from whatever we didn't do the night before or whatever the day before. So if we're stressed, if we're angry, if we're sleep deprived, if we don't have our nutrition, your body, it's just basically, picture it, it's not coming up at full performance every morning and for that
Hmm.
reset. And that's why this 24-hour cycle is just super important. So again, sleep and nutrition are two major pillars of health, so that we
Yeah.
as entrepreneurs can show up to be our best and be
Hmm.
present. The next one is movement.
Yeah.
So call it exercise, call it walking, call it moving your fingers, moving your toes. Our bodies are meant to move.
Hmm.
And in today's world, so many people are just sitting, right? They're sedentary. They're watching TV. They're just like zoning out, but they're not even moving. Um, the body has a really hard time when it's not moving. So we
Yeah.
talked about the lymphatic system for our brain and our body. There's something called the lymphatic system.
Hmm.
That's basically the fluid that is about an eighth of an inch below our skin that keeps
Yeah.
kind of everything lubricated in the body.
Yeah.
and it doesn't move on its own. It's the one system in the body that doesn't move on its own. If we don't move, that's not going to move. And what's going to happen is you're going to get sick because now everything's stuck.
Yeah, I mean, we're only three pillars in right now, and I can see how much of a problem this already is for a majority of maybe Americans, maybe people in the world.
In the
How
world.
it's definitely in the world because, the food you put into your system affects how how everything gets digested, what nutrients are going to which muscles and organs. So if you have bad food that you put in the system, off on the wrong foot. If you're drinking a ton of alcohol, or maybe like we just kind of said, sedentary on social media every single day, not moving around, that probably floods your brain, makes it harder to detox when you're trying to sleep at night.
Yep.
And then just the lack of mobility, people just being stuck in their chairs all day, or laying on a couch, or binge watching movies and TVs. It can't be good repeating that on a
No.
day-to-day basis. Falling into a routine like that has got to be horrible for you.
It's horrible. And then again, all of that, just figure if the fluid is not moving in the body, right? That's when people get sick more.
Hmm.
Because it's affecting your ability for your immune system. Do you remember back in the day? I don't even know if they do this any longer, but the doctor would feel behind your neck and
Yeah,
go
right
like this to
there.
see if you have swollen lymph nodes there. That's
Hmm.
because so much of our lymphs drain above our collarbones to the body. That's a portal that drains throughout our body.
Okay.
And this is the first part that it starts feeling clogged up is behind these lymph nodes right below, right under our ear.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So what we can do, it's only an eighth of an inch, like I say, under our skin. We don't have to like grind it down. We don't have to be hard. We can just do it with a very light touch. But
Hmm.
even if you're feeling tired, or if you're feeling like you're coming down with a cold, and maybe you were just you were talking a lot, right? Even
Hmm.
just speaking a lot at a party, or you're in a club and you're having to talk like super loud, and then the music's coming into your ear and that's super loud. Now everything right here is all compressed. The
Yeah.
best thing you can do the next morning is to just gently start to just rub down the side of your neck and start to get some of that lymph flowing. That's
Yeah.
like one part of it. That's like a piece of it. There are about 7 different drainages for the lymph in our body just to kind of get the things moving. One of the biggest reasons why we shouldn't be sitting all day is the back of
Hmm.
our knees, right? Is another place where it gets stuck. And the top of our groin on both legs, that's another major portal. We've got one in our stomach, another one is our arms. So sometimes just like shaking your arms, or actually like getting up and standing,
Yeah.
you're moving something. That's all I ask for people to do. If you're going to be on calls all day and you choose to sit and you don't have a stand-up desk, just get up at least once an hour and just walk to your kitchen, walk outside, just get up at a certain
Hmm.
point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy because I think, well, just us both being in Chicago, and I think it's tougher. Let's say you don't hypothetically have a standing desk and you're kind of stuck in your apartment, and it's a
yep,
cold, snowy day, middle of January in Chicago. It's a little tough to get outside, but it's crazy. Like you need to have a little movement in your life every single day, I think,
totally.
to
And
feel
this is
like
where like
to feel
I
normal.
had
I go crazy when I don't work out for an
right.
extended period of time. Like just I get
Absolutely.
it just makes you feel weird,
It
in my
does.
opinion.
It does.
Yeah.
And this is where I just remind entrepreneurs, you know what? First of all, remember to have fun. Like,
Hmm.
Sam, when you are on a call, we always laugh. I mean, because it's just part of engagement, right? So connection and joy is also part of health. But
Yeah.
sometimes what I tell people is just remember to be a child again. Be a
Hmm.
kid. And
Yeah.
what do we do when we're a kid? We're jumping up and down, we're moving all over, we're doing that. Sometimes because we're just like, so that's just us, right? As kids, that's the beautiful part of children. Sometimes, and this sounds crazy when I say this to adults, I'm like, just jump up and down. That's all
Yeah.
you need to do sometimes to get everything moving. Um,
I love that point you just made. Like, just don't act childish, but be a kid. Like,
Exactly.
feel, be happy, smile, laugh. Not everything. Obviously, when you're starting off your business, you want nothing but success. So it's a very, it's a very high stress environment. It's a very high stress environment. And if you battle with that every single day and you get caught in a loop that you need perfection every second of every day of every minute, and if I don't meet this goal within this time period, I'm a failure, I'm a loser,
Right.
XYZ. You
Yep.
cannot, you will never be successful thinking that way. I think you have to have a driven mindset, and I think you need to have, you know, discipline and determination on a day-to-day basis. But I think it is very important, to have fun too. You're building something that you kind of thought of in your brain and you're bringing it to life. You got to remember to enjoy and live a little bit. I think that's
Exactly.
what, that's a trap a lot of people fall into, I think, when they're becoming an entrepreneur or starting their own business. They just get super caught up in the outcomes, and I haven't achieved this, I haven't achieved that. They worry, what happened, what's this client going to think about this, what are they going to think about that pitch that I just did? But at the end of the day, it's just, you're going to succeed if you keep battling, if you stay in the game long enough, and you don't give up, right?
Yeah. And that brings, another piece that you're talking about, right, is stress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, you've heard the saying, stress can kill you. It can.
Mm-hmm.
Because while we are all so busy, got to go, got to do, got to be, got to have, right? Which is what drives an entrepreneurial mindset, right? For
Yeah.
success. You can't just like be like, oh, time to make the donuts, kind of coming like Eeyore every day. Like that's not going to give people most success.
No.
But if you go into the day and say, I love what I'm doing, right? That's what entrepreneurs usually do. And they're like, this is my one thing. I'm going to go and be the best that I can be. And that day I did the best that I could. And now I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to learn from that. And I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to do XYZ. If we don't acknowledge that to ourselves every day and we keep telling ourselves, oh my God, so-and-so didn't call me back. How come this is not happening? And then your speech goes faster, your breathing gets shorter, you're not getting oxygen to your cells. Again, now we're not moving. And if we're not sleeping and if we don't have the right nutrition, now the stress that's building up inside of our body comes from a hormone called cortisol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard of
And
cortisol.
when
Yeah.
we've all heard of cortisol, right? So,
Yeah.
but what does it actually mean? The simple part of it says when we're stressed and we're like, we're running on empty for all different reasons, mindset, body, nutrition, sleep, and this cortisol is raging. What
Mm-hmm.
that also does is that typically raises our blood sugar,
Yep.
our blood sugar in our body. And when we have that going on, what happens if we're not moving and we're not doing all the things that we're talking about and we're sedentary, that's when people start to gain weight. That's one
Yeah.
reason they forget. They're like, but I'm doing everything right. I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm exercising. They're like, I'm doing everything right, quote unquote, is what my clients tell me. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but let's talk about your stress level
Yeah.
because that means that your brain is still not keeping up, and now your cells are not keeping up in your body. So
Does
stress
that
is highly underrated, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't want to admit that they're stressed because they think it's a weakness.
that's amazing that you said that. Um, and that, I mean, the stress, it definitely ties into those first three pillars we talked about a little bit, right? Where it's like, or is it its own thing entirely? So we have three pillars so far. We have nutrition, we have sleep, and we have being active or mobility, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I guess cortisol, how stressed you are, definitely plays a little bit of a factor into all three of
So
those,
that
right?
could be an input or it
Mm-hmm.
can be an output.
Yeah.
Stress can show up before, stress can show up after, it can show up during. But
Mm-hmm.
if those other pieces of health are not solid, the stress can take over. And what
Yeah.
happens over time, again, going back to what I said before, the body has one job to keep us alive. So
Yeah.
if we're going like this all day long, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going and going and going and going and going and going, what
Yeah.
happens is, right, then that's where you hear some people and they're like, the plaque is building up. It's been 10 years now
Mm-hmm.
because your heart is still having to go the whole time you're doing this.
Yeah.
And that's why people have heart attacks. They don't even realize the damage that's being done by pushing ourselves so hard on the outside. We forget to pay attention to what's happening on the inside. And that's really where that's the next piece that kind of comes in after stress is mindset, right?
Yeah.
Is
Mm-hmm.
where we kind of show up in our mind. And again, if those other pieces aren't there, we don't have the full ability for our brain to function. So now
Yeah.
everything is coming to the front of our prefrontal cortex of our brain, and that's the reaction center. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
decision-making center. So now we're just reacting to something, right? Now we're pouncing on
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and on other
Yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had that example, right? Have you had that with anybody where you're like, I'm just trying to share something, and they're like jumping on me, you know?
Oh, yeah, I feel like I've kind of run into that a decent a decent amount. And it's like, and I feel like sometimes I feel it where it's, you get an email from someone that maybe doesn't make you feel the way you want to feel. Maybe it makes you a little bit upset. You want to react right away, but you have to be like, okay, let's take a step back here, reanalyze
Right.
the situation. Maybe a proposal doesn't go right, something like that, or you've been negotiating on pricing for a while and something doesn't land. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's about not being reactionary, right? Like you can't just be an emotional wreck, an emotional roller coaster, super volatile. That's no good for anyone, correct? And that has a lot to do with, mindset, stress,
Yes.
nutrition, sleep,
Yep.
movement,
Yep.
right?
And yeah, and there's another piece then that comes right after that we also forget about,
Hmm.
that we take for granted until we don't do it any longer, is our breathing.
Okay. You want to dive
People,
into that a little? I feel like I never, do you do like meditation sessions and stuff? Or like, what do you
so
recommend
here's
out there?
what,
Because I feel like I just breathe normally. I don't do anything crazy.
right? Right.
Yeah.
So we take this all for granted until it's not there. If we can't breathe, we're not going to live, right? So
Yeah.
we take for granted that our heart is beating, that all of our organs are working or are pumping like they should, we think. And
Hmm.
then we also, every minute of every day, every second, we're breathing. But the
Hmm.
problem is, for most people, when we are reactionary, when we're stressed, when we're not getting the proper nutrients, and we're not present,
Yeah.
our breathing gets shallow. So there's
Hmm.
different breathing. There's breathing in your lungs and there's breathing in your diaphragm. So
Yeah.
as babies, if you ever watch a baby breathe, it looks the opposite of the way an adult breathes, because
Really?
their stomach goes out when they breathe, and ours doesn't. Ours goes in, right, when we breathe,
Yeah.
if we don't think about it.
Uh-huh.
So the natural way to get oxygen to ourselves is not breathing from our chest and our lungs, it's breathing from our stomach.
Huh.
And so there's something, would you be interested in learning about what box breathing is?
I would love to learn about
Okay. Because
box
there's a lot
breathing, right?
Yeah, box breathing. Yeah. So there's a
Okay.
lot of people that are like, I'm not going to meditate. That's all woo woo. I don't have time for that. Like, it's too much. It doesn't need to be a thing, right?
Hmm.
That works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
we can all breathe. So box breathing says that we breathe in through your nose 5 seconds and try to breathe in from your stomach. Feel like it's coming from your gut. Like, breathe in for 5, hold it for 7, consciously holding it for 7, and then that's good, and then let it out slowly for
Okay.
4.
Yeah. Okay. So it's you breathe in
So
through your
breathe in
nose
for
for
5,
5.
Hold it for 7, but relax your shoulders. And then gently let it out.
I definitely feel a calming effect on my brain
That's
almost.
so what that's doing, it's calming your nervous system, that vagus nerve. If
Back to
you're
the
ever
vagus
feeling
nerve.
a panic
Okay.
attack and
Yeah.
you do this box breathing, it literally is putting oxygen back into the body, and so it can bring you into the present. So when you let out that 4 at the end, if you put your tongue to the top of your mouth and kind of
Mm-hmm.
go like set out that way, you'll get a different release. So let's try that again. So when we do 5, we breathe in, shoulders down, relaxed, breathe in, hold for 7, and then breathe out with your tongue on the top of your mouth.
That actually feels incredible. Like I really do
Beautiful, right?
feel like I'm getting like it's weird, like a little bit of a tingling in my brain almost, like something like stress is getting released or something like
Very
that.
common. Very common because you've actually just opened up the pathway to your brain by doing that, right? As well, and to your gut. Now it's talking
Yeah,
to each other.
that's amazing. So I guess, with your clients, do you recommend doing that like in the mornings,
Oh,
like 3 times a day? Is there a certain cadence to it or just kind of whenever you feel like it?
I think do it whenever you feel it. And the reason I say that is, again, some people want to make it a thing, and I can turn that into a whole thing for you in front of red light therapy. And like, there's a lot of things we can do. But the cool thing is, breathing is free
Yep.
and it's always accessible. You don't have to bring anything with you. You can take it wherever you go. And the other thing to remember is we talked about anxiety and depression earlier.
Yeah.
That's where breathing comes into play. When we think
Hmm.
about it, we can't breathe in the past. It's done. I can't breathe a second ago because it's
No.
already gone.
Yeah.
I can't breathe in the future because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So when we're having an anxiety attack or our cortisol is raging, we're feeling angry, we're upset about something that happened in the past or something traumatic, which is very real. Maybe there's a
Yeah.
trigger that something happened that brought up a memory. What we
Hmm.
can do to bring us into the present is to
Yeah.
breathe. And if we're
That's
in the
amazing.
present,
Hmm.
now what we're doing is we have the ability to conscientiously decide the next step because we've
Yeah.
basically slowed ourselves down.
Hmm.
And the other thing to remember at that point, when we're breathing properly and we're in the present, we are also not our emotions.
Yeah.
I can feel happy. I can feel mad. I can feel joy. I can feel sad.
Hmm.
That's a momentary piece. A feeling is something that comes to us and then we can let it go. It comes to us and we can embrace it. But we are
Hmm.
not our emotions. It's a reaction to something that's happening.
That's awesome. You have to be more than your emotions at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
They
And
shouldn't
so if you're
control who
finding
you
it
are
angle
as a
backwards,
person.
everybody, that's where your breathing is like super important. I'm sorry. Yeah, breathing it will bring you out of those emotions as well.
That's awesome. Is that all the pillars right there? I feel like all of those kind of connect
It's
on a
all
day-to-day
connected. So that goes
basis
into mindset.
how
Yep.
you
That goes into
feel.
mindset. Yep.
Wow,
How
that's
you
so
show up.
that's crazy. So all right, let's recap. So
Yeah.
we have nutrition, we
Yep.
have sleep, we
Yep.
have mobility, how often we're getting active. We have, you know, we're it's how do you balance stress levels
Yes.
and anxiety, things like that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
it's what we just covered right there. Breathing is a big pillar.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
missing one, right?
Yeah, so that mindset and is and
The
stress is all there.
mindset.
So you're deciding, right, how you react
Hmm.
or enjoy something. And then all of that is wrapped into connection, joy, and purpose.
Yeah.
If we don't have connection with other people
Hmm.
and we're excited about the fact that we're in our basement on our computer, and some people like that, but you're missing all of this opportunity from connection from others, which comes down to one of the things that I do a lot in my practice is around energy. And that's how
Yeah.
I actually came up with the name of my company, Volterra. Somebody once said to me a long time ago, "Oh my God, Marigale, you have so much energy. If you could package that, that would be great." I'm like, okay, let me think about that. Because I just think every minute of every day is a gift. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, energy. And I came up with like batteries and stuff. So I came up with energy out of Volt, and I came up with Volt.
Hmm.
And then Terra is land, right?
The earth.
It means
Yeah.
land. So I
Hmm.
came up with the word Volterra. And unbeknownst to me, it's actually a town in Italy right outside of Siena.
That's crazy. So did you live around Volterra at one point in time?
Well, no, I was in Milan, but I would travel to that area. But now I think I have to go to Volterra
I
and
think you
check it
need to
out.
put that. I think you need to put that on the bucket list. Well, that's
I
really
do.
cool. I guess what are your one? I guess kind of touching back on the connection aspect, like feeling a
Yeah.
purpose, feeling joyful, feeling gratitude in the moment. I think that's the thing a lot of people miss when, either you're starting up a job for the first time, and you're remote maybe in a new city, or you're an entrepreneur and you are. It's you against the world, and you're on your computer all the time, and you feel like you never interact with anyone on a day-to-day basis, especially going with from having coworkers that you're interacting with every day in an office to being on your own in your apartment. It's a big change right there. I think how you combat that is your perspective, right? Your perspective on life, your perspective on every day is kind of a blessing, and that's way tougher to get into that mindset. It's easier said than done, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For
But
sure.
with a lot of your clients, is that the main thing that they kind of come in for? Or do you see out of all the pillars, is there like a major pillar that 25 to 30-year-olds are coming in for this, and 40 to 50-year-olds are typically coming in for this? What have you seen in your business? Because I know you work with a ton of different age groups, and how you
Yeah.
roadmap kind of recovery plans is based on the age group. And
Yeah.
obviously, the biggest leak in the bucket per se is there. If we could break down the age groups that you see,
Sure.
and
Sure.
maybe the biggest things you've noticed over the past few years, especially post pandemic, everyone working remote, not a lot of human connection anymore. What are you finding on a day-to-day basis
Yeah.
that your clients are coming in for?
Yeah. So great questions, because it really makes a big difference. And these are obviously, it's a generalization. It's not everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I also want to put a disclaimer, like everything I'm talking about is not medical advice, right? This is just
Hmm.
perception, and people that I work with, everyone should always work with their doctor when it comes to their health care and what they're going to do. This is just advice and direction based upon all my years of study and what I see. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Hmm.
So in young adults, so I'm talking teens through their early 20s,
Hmm.
there's this, let's just say it's a D1 athlete, right?
Hmm.
And they want to get to the best college, and they want to get, a scholarship, or maybe they want to get into the NBA, or, NFL, or whatever the case is. For that group, what they do is they don't even realize that nutrition and sleep have anything to do with their performance.
Hmm.
They're just go, 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 gotta make this happen. And if they would only sit back and learn that if they could actually optimize that, how much better they could even be. So I see that what happens with that age group, there's a ton of burnout and there's a lot of anxiety. So that's where mindset usually shows up first,
Yeah.
because they're trying to be everything over here, but they're forgetting this part of it. So they'll get there, but at a cost a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Hmm.
Or maybe because they're not giving themselves enough recovery and enough sleep, and their mindset isn't, I'm going to be the best that I can be, but there's no such thing as perfection. I'm going to strive for it. But if they don't realize that there's a difference, then they could get hurt, right? Because they push themselves, their bodies too fast, too hard, and things happen. So I see people again with mindset, with burnout, and then with injuries that could be changing the trajectory of what they thought they were going to do, right? They could have
Yeah.
a blown out ACL right before they're ready to go, to a combine or something. It could really hurt them. So I see that showing up first.
Yeah.
In the late 20s and early 30s, there's this realization of, oh, I thought I was going to be this. Now I'm doing this. And then there's like, do those match of what my aspirations were? So people are very, very hard on themselves. And so I see stress and anxiety show up because they're nervous about something that didn't happen yet, or they're disappointed for something that did happen. And again, if
Yeah.
the nutrients and the sleep and the lifestyle are too much, then they're actually burning themselves out so quickly inside of their bodies they don't even realize it. And they're like, I can't make a decision. I don't know what I want to do. Well,
Yeah.
everything's not present, so they can't actually make that connection to joy and purpose because they're just like, I don't understand this. What am I going to do when I grow up, right? And they could be 30 asking themselves that question. In the 30s is for a lot of people is when they're in even late 20s, right, or even 20s. People are maybe starting families, but that's
Yeah.
also when our hormones really change. So, right, for most of us, that things start falling down after 35. So
Yeah.
our hormones they peak, and now we're having to change with everything, but we're not recognizing that, so we still keep going. And
Yeah.
that's why so many people just push themselves so hard. That's why heart attacks happen, right? I see this happen so often that people are trying to get to the top of their careers. They get there and they have a heart attack before they can even enjoy it, right? 1 out of 3 men will have a heart attack. If they have a heart attack by the time they're 42, which is the average age, they're not going to live to enjoy everything they've been pushing so hard for. But the crazy thing is 1 out of 2 women will die of a heart attack. Women just don't even pay attention. They're like, oh, it's fine. We have to deal with it. We don't pay attention. But and more women are having heart attacks. So that's just the stress of life.
Wow. And what are those numbers for men and women there? 1 in 3 before.
1 out of 3 men in their early 40s, if they have a heart attack, will die. They won't even have the ability to enjoy their life. And 1 out of 2 women, if they have a heart attack, will not survive.
Wow. That's there's clearly something bigger picture going on there, I think, that everyone needs to look at.
It's environment. It could be if they're eating fake food, right, is what I call it. So if they're eating all of these toxins and plastics, we know that microplastics are showing up in the umbilical cords of babies now, right? From all of these water bottles that we've been drinking forever out of plastic, or microwaves and what everything is doing, right? All this toxicity that we're putting into ourselves, or the environment, right? With a very, divisive world right now, if we allow ourselves to be part of all of that, that's going to affect our overall consternation and the inside of our body. There's a compromise that's happening inside of us that we don't realize. But all along, plaque could be building up. If that movement, that mobility that I talked about in our cells are not happening, that's when we can start the beginning of prediabetes, right? So 3 out of 4 Americans and Western Europeans have something called insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Because that just basically means that our pancreas isn't working like it should to be able to help all of our digestion. And eventually over time that could turn into diabetes too, right? Which is just rampant now, and that's all most of the time it's reversible. It's not genetic, it's lifestyle. So that's a whole nother thing that we can get into, but that'll start showing up in our 30s, 20s and 30s. By the time people get to their 50s, now their hormones have changed. There's a whole change in metabolism. How things inside of our body, instead of it always like working really fast, because that's our metabolism, right? When we're younger, our metabolism, we don't need to have as big a metabolism as we get older when we were younger. Just as our body was growing, our body is not growing anymore. So now it's on a maintenance schedule. And if we're not allowing the body to metabolize, things start building up inside of us. And then what shows up, for example, now when people are in their 60s and 70s, when Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and cancer all show up, that didn't start overnight. We just haven't been paying attention. Our body is always giving us signals and clues, but we're not listening. I'll give an example. We should never even have a headache, ever.
Really?
That's a signal from our body saying something is off. We're dehydrated. We're overtaxed. We're undernourished. We shouldn't even have a hangnail.
Really?
What we do is we go and we take aspirin and we cover it up and we just keep going, right? Because again, the body we have to keep going. The body's going to keep us alive until one day it says, I'm out. People in their 50s and 60s, you hear them like they were a college athlete or they were a weekend athlete, right? In their 20s and 30s and 40s. And then all of a sudden they say their knees are killing them. Oh my God, my knee is killing me. I'm going to have to get a knee replacement. Okay, it's not all of a sudden your knee is killing you.
Yeah.
Your body has been telling you for years, you need to take care of your body, but we don't listen. And at a certain point, the body says, I'm out with the knee. I've been trying to tell you for years to not be doing that any longer, giving yourself that assault on your body. But I'll be very frank, we don't need our knee to live.
Yeah.
So the body goes in and says, now I have to go take care of your kidney. I have to go take care of your heart. I have to go take care of your liver, your organs.
Yeah.
You take care of your knee. That's usually what happens. So again, we could be our own best metabolic detective if we just pay attention to the signals that our body is giving us.
Well, that's crazy. I think I have 2 points there off what you said. I think there is one, a bigger kind of crisis than I think anyone realizes is happening, whether that's just in the United States, around the world, with, food that people are consuming, lack of, getting outside and touching grass. I think people are glued to their social media, glued to their phones, never see sunlight. And, all of that ties into what we were talking about, like heart attacks at 40, nationwide kind of diabetes. It all ties back to the food, how you're exercising, how you're sleeping. And 2, I think there is a point where everything we do to, let's say, oh, we have a headache, it means something else is wrong in your body. You take ibuprofen, you get over it. It's putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. It's not treating the actual root cause. It's just prolonging it, right? To make you feel better in the moment. And that's where Volterra ties into, how you get in there and you fix the root cause, right? You fix the root cause issue of what your patients come in for.
Right.
I think that's amazing.
It's all connected, right? And how can we as entrepreneurs show up and be our best every day to serve our clients if we're not serving ourselves first? And for many people, they think it's selfish to think like that. It's actually selfless to put your health first. And it sounds, oh, Pollyanna, and oh, isn't that nice if we took care of our health? But again, if we don't show up and know that we're not doing everything we can to be our best self, how can we then actually use our mind to be able to come up with something and connect with somebody to help serve them the best that we can be? It's all connected. And I know people that have gotten so much better at their job when they actually prioritize their health. I have one client where he's an elderly gentleman. He's in his 70s. So again, nothing is ever too late. The body can respond extremely quickly and is grateful when we do anything to it that's going to help it do its job better. But he had mild cognitive impairment, which is the precursor to dementia and Alzheimer's. It kind of just means there's something a little kind of off going on in our brain. It's not all connecting. Long story short is we were able to eradicate that by changing his lifestyle. I mean, he was a smoker. He, never exercised, very successful CEO to the outside world, extremely successful. He didn't have heart issues in his family, so he didn't die of a heart attack. He was one of the lucky ones. But we got him to start to move. We got him off of major fast food chains as his
Yep.
major source of food. He also ate out almost every night as a world traveler, as a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just always eating out. And when you eat out, you don't know what they're making it with in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Plus all that salt, all that kind of stuff that kind of, anyways, it's never too late to do anything to help your body feel better. That's what we do.
That's that's fantastic. And I guess just for the audience out there that will be listening to this, let's
Yeah.
say they come into Volterra Health for a checkup or, an initial analysis that you would do with any patient. What does that process look like? Is it finding the, I guess I'm gonna use a reference here where it's like,
Yeah.
you have a bucket that's got a bunch of leaks and holes in it. Are you finding the biggest hole in the bucket, filling that first and taking everything one step at a time? Or is it kind of, an all-in-one approach where it's, we're going to deal with
Yeah.
everything at
So
once?
it's not an all at once because it's a lot. That's changed, behavioral change and a lifestyle change that doesn't
Yeah.
happen overnight. You didn't get to that point overnight. So
Mm-hmm.
there's ways that we can change things, but it's not my agenda ever. It's I meet the client where they are. Like
Okay.
they came to me for a reason. What's their reason?
Yeah.
And then we look at that. And then once we do an assessment, we can say, oh, now we know why you got to that point. So
Yeah.
let's talk about how you got to that point so that we can start already addressing some things. I will say that for the majority of people, if we can get their nutrition
Mm-hmm.
um, dialed in, and I'm not a big believer in a diet, by the way. There's a
Okay.
lot of fads that are out there. There's all these semi-glutide and GLP-1s that are out there for a quick fix, right? That is actually causing a whole nother issue for quick fixes of people because they're not changing their lifestyle. They're just
Yeah.
relying on a shot, or a pill to give them something. But we say, okay, let's add in what's missing so that the bad stuff could fall out.
Yeah.
So let's just say you eat fast food 3 times a day. That's just what you do. You hate to cook, right? You're a 29-year-old guy and you don't care. You're going to meet your friends after work and you're an entrepreneur. You're just going everywhere. I just
Mm-hmm.
say, go ahead and keep doing that because that's what you're used to. But can we add in something that's good? Can we add in yogurt? Can we add in creatine? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the one supplement where there's actually a lot of data on that. And everything I do is science-based and evidence-based that
Yeah.
shows that creatine can help regardless of your age, right? With your muscle growth, with your cognitive ability, et cetera. So there's certain things that we can do. Again, most of the time we say, like for young males, where I find that bucket of young men,
Mm-hmm.
like under 35,
Yeah.
they haven't been to the doctor since they were in college, maybe high school,
Yeah.
which is completely different than women because women have to deal with things on a monthly basis, right? That's just how we're built.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they don't even know their numbers. One thing I tell and share with all of my clients is I'm like, when's the last time you actually had your vitamin D levels checked,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Or you even know what your baseline is for your numbers. And they're like, well, why would I need to know that? I'm like, well, because then we can tell already at the cellular level and through your blood work with your doctor, we
mm-hmm.
can tell that there's some, because the changes for disease, right, which is disease, starts inside first.
Yeah.
It actually shows up in your blood work first. And if you know what your baseline is, then you can always say, if I go back in once a year, I can see if that's changed. And it helps a lot to know your numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what my numbers are for anything.
Really?
So
Actually,
it's
most people don't. Most people don't.
that sounds like it's something I need to go kind of get checked on just so I can have a baseline for what this is. It's
Right.
definitely correlated to, how you're feeling is correlated to a lot of the numbers that get done in the blood work with, different efficiencies or inefficiencies that you have in different vitamins and all that stuff, right?
Well, tie it to your entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, how could we do our own business if we don't know our numbers? If
Yeah,
we don't know how business is operating, it just amazes me that we don't even know our own body numbers. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's
for
that
people's
that's insane. And is it as simple as going to, an urgent care and saying, "Hey, I just need blood work done," or do you have any
so
recommendations on where people can go to get this done?
yeah, so if you have your regular, most people, if they have insurance, get an annual checkup.
Hmm.
Most people
That's
do that,
it.
but they never bother
Yeah,
to look at their numbers when they got it. So
yeah,
I would go back if you haven't gone in for an annual checkup, that's probably a good baseline. You don't need to go to urgent care for that. You can
okay.
just go to
Just the
your
annual, your
regular,
primary care physician. Yeah,
just go to your regular doctor, right? And just say, I'm here for my annual checkup. You will get your baseline numbers already, your vitamin D, right? That's the majority of Americans don't have enough vitamin D in their systems. And that there's a whole other cascade of processes that happen if your vitamin D isn't optimized. We're not getting the same levels of vitamin D from the sun that our grandmothers did. So,
yeah,
and then we're not going outside on top of it, right? So most of us are under a nutrient, under sourced when it comes to vitamin D. And then there's a whole lot of other ones too. So I would just,
yeah,
that's one advice that I would give to anybody of any age. When's the last time you had a checkup, and do you know your baseline numbers? That
yeah.
that's
That's
that's and that's you know baseline.
that says a lot too about you, just, what your overall health is going to be. I think that's fantastic. Is there anything else you recommend to, the random listener out there that finds all of this interesting with,
Yeah,
optimizing health, with
yeah,
sleep and recovery and nutrition and tying that into day-to-day life?
yeah. Because it's a lot, right? It's overwhelming if you haven't ever thought of it before.
Yeah.
So the first piece of it is a lot of my clients go through something called the stages of grief, just like
Hmm.
death, when
Yeah.
they find these things out. In the beginning, they're in denial. They're like, "No, I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm fine. I'm young. I'm fine." And then once they find out, like, how come no one ever told me that macaroni and cheese is not real food? Like, that I've gotten that blue and yellow box. No one ever told me that. I thought that was food. It's not food. It's lab food. It's fake food.
Hmm.
So then they actually get angry, right? Like,
Yeah.
how come no one told me? Then they're like, well, then they start to bargain. Well, what if I still love macaroni and cheese, but what if I only have it like 2 times a week? Or ramen noodles is another one for kids, right, in college. What if I just have ramen noodles? Well, that's just full of, a lot of things too. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I can bargain with you. Keep having have you ever had a piece of fruit lately, or something like that's not in a package? Okay, can we try to add something in? What is it that you like? So I'm a big believer in adding in. And then
Hmm.
what usually happens is, if people are now getting insulin resistant and they're gaining weight and they're like, I can't lose weight no matter what I do, then they start to get a little depressed. They're like, no matter what I do, it's not working.
Yeah.
Um, and then they finally get to the point like, okay, wow, I need to accept what's happening here, because we know where it's going to go if I keep doing this. But the one thing
Hmm.
I recommend is people just think about it.
Yeah.
Awareness is half the battle,
I think that's very well said. It's
you
like
know?
a lot of people live on a brown diet, fast foods, junk food that you get
Yeah.
from, the
Yeah.
grocery store. Everything's packaged, everything's full of, um, nasty chemicals and preservatives that you don't want to be eating every single day. So I think awareness is the first step. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with, when they think about Volterra and I
Yeah.
guess your businesses that you've talked about?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, like, for some people, I would just say that know that there are options out there that you can get healthy on that um, don't require, again, any kind of money, right? You just have, like you said, walk outside, sleep, start eating real food. But what I can do is help you change that. That's
Hmm.
what we're experts in, is behavioral change and lifestyle modification. It's undoing all that stuff that you didn't know. And
Hmm.
so, like, if you're a person, for example, that loves Oreos, you know,
Yeah.
or Girl Scout cookies or something, and then you're like, it's in your kitchen, and the next day you look in there, you're like, oh my god, I ate a whole sleeve of Oreos, I didn't even realize it.
Not good.
That's just right, which is very common. Or you're in
Hmm.
front of the television, and now the whole thing of the whole bag of popcorn is gone. Just become conscientious of eating. Just realize that when most of us, when we get to be an adult, we're feeding ourselves.
Yep. Yes.
Whatever we're putting
Yes.
in our mouth, most of us are feeding ourselves. So just, what is it that you're feeding yourself? Are you feeding connection? Are you feeding joy? Are you breathing? Are you eating real food? And kind of just slow down at the moment and be present is what I would ask everybody to kind of think about. And then if you're present, you're not going to be shoveling everything in
Hmm.
unconsciously. We all have very stressful days. So if you're
Yeah.
going to eat the whole bag of popcorn, that's fine, but conscientiously go in there and know you're doing it. I
Hmm.
guarantee you'll eat half the bag and not the whole bag, because
That's
you're consciously doing that. So being present, being aware, and being conscious is what I would leave everybody with to try to think about.
that's
And for
awesome. Yeah.
members.
Every input's gonna have an output to what you put in your
Yep,
body and kind of
yep.
relate to life. Well, hey,
That's
Mary
what
Gill,
we do.
thank you. Exactly. Thank you
Yeah,
for joining us, or joining me on episode 6 of After Hours, the
you're
Pledgy
welcome.
podcast. Um, Obviously, fantastic, having you on, entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Volterra Health and Ilarion Solutions, global business leader. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I really appreciate you having me on here. And I'm just so happy for everybody listening that they maybe will 1 second think about their health, that it's not a past thing, that it's part of what we do every single day. And we actually have a lot more control over it than we think. But thank you for the time, and I'm here to help in any way I can.
All
Best of
right.
luck, you guys.
Yeah, we really
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Bye.
All right.